Good morning, good afternoon, or good evening, everybody. Welcome back to my YouTube channel and to another instalment in the Sydney Railroad build. If you watched episode 13, you will have seen me make amazing progress framing up the lower level peninsula. This week's project is to build a reversing loop all the way around the end of that benchwork. The first clip that I recorded for this video was extremely out of focus, so I elected not to use it. Thus it may seem that I'm starting in a bit of a weird place and not quite at the beginning. So I just thought I'd throw that out there. Anyway, without further ado, let's just head out into the workshop and build that reversing loop. Well, so far this morning I have got this first piece in. It's about 28 inches long, although I put the top 36 inches long because there's a turnout there. So that at this end is going to rest on a block there on the other frame. And it means I don't have to cut the turnout. The framing is in for the next bit that goes across the helix base, and then this frame is not attached yet, but it is resting in the right place. And then it will cross over the other helix frame, but I'll have to notch that one and cut it in. Anyway, Zeus is telling me that my visitors have arrived, so I'm going to go in and talk to them, and I'll be back out later. Well, it's been slow going, but I have now got the benchwork through the area under the helix. I'm having to build full frames in some cases, and it isn't really a lot quicker to build a small frame than it is to build a big one, which is why I normally build fairly large sections. So this area here and the bit between the two arms of the helix are fully framed areas, and then the bit that goes over this frame and the bit that goes over the other frame by the far end of the level. Those areas are just built into the helix foundations. The next step now is to plot where the end curve can go. I took measurements this morning on the plan so that I can get it right. And it's also going to start leveling out at this point. It's 30.5 inches from the floor, which is where it needed to be. So let me get back to work and I will check in with you again later. Well, I've joined 3 of my curved sub-roadbed sections together to make a turn-back curve of the correct radius. I've also cut a whole load of risers from plywood offcuts. I don't have enough yet, but I've got enough to get started, and I'll make some more later. This curve is located approximately where it goes, although it's still several inches too low. But by positioning it this way first, I can now get the risers in the right places. So let me get it raised into position, and I will be right back. Well, that horseshoe curve is now jacked up to the right height. Nothing's permanently attached yet, everything's just held together with clamps. So I'm going to see about getting those screws in, getting it permanently installed, and then I will be right back. With a long curve like this, I think the best way to get it accurate is to start off with one near the middle and then do the 2 at the ends, making sure that it's perfectly level and also that you're not pinching or spreading the curve unnaturally. Anyway, now that I've done that, the others in the middle go a lot quicker. So let me just finish the job and I will be right back. Well, this end curve is now permanently installed. I haven't cut it at the benchwork joints yet. I've just marked it and I'll come back and cut it later with the multi-saw. It's usually best to install it in one piece and then cut it afterwards. That tends to improve the accuracy. Well, that's about all that I can get done today. It's time to go in and feed my dogs. So I'm going to come back out again tomorrow and continue, and I will see you then. Don't go away. Well, this is how far I got yesterday. I got the end curve of the reversing loop installed, and the first straight piece along here. There's going to be another slight curve under where the level is, and then we've got to connect it up with the bottom of the grade. This end is still 1/2 inch higher up than this point, which is why I've got that 1/2 inch spacer in there. And most of that will be taken up with the vertical curve. And as you can see, I have plenty of space for it. I have almost 5 feet to get down that last 1/2 inch. And then on the other side, it'll be about the same, but it'll be on a curve which will head across the middle of the open space to the other end of the end curve. So I'm going to do this piece first. Let me get on with that, and I'll check in with you later. I may have mentioned in an earlier video that the sections along here that have the deep river valleys in them are too tall to be tilted and go through the stairwell on their backs. They have to go upright, which means that the two hidden tracks behind the backdrop make them too wide. So I've built this piece. It's fairly straightforward, and it just hangs on the back of this frame and it'll be bolted in place. It just goes on the back like that. I've got to hold it until I can get a clamp in there. And then there'll be a bolt through there and another bolt through the other end. So let me get that attached, and then I can see about getting the deck on top of it. So don't go away, I will be right back. Well, that is the straight side of the reverse loop benchwork done. Once I got that level frame in, it's a simple matter just to shim up the bottom of the grade. The trick is to have a wide variety of different thicknesses of shim, which I have. I have the thin cardboard that comes with Pico turnouts, a somewhat thicker cardboard, not quite sure where that came from. I think it might have been my dog harness. This is the thin plywood that comes on fast track quick sticks. Then there's the door skin plywood that I use for laminating curved benchwork. And then in this case I also had a couple of blocks of 1/2 inch plywood cut from offcuts. And I used all those thicknesses. Cereal boxes are also a good source of thin cardboard. The only thing you can't use is corrugated cardboard because that will crush. Well, the sub road bed has now been installed all the way around. I haven't joined it up in the middle of this bridge section because I can't put a conventional splice plate under there. I've got to have some framing underneath it, and that will butt into this riser and into the frame on the other side. And those frame members can also serve as a splice plate. Anyway, I am out of time for this morning, so I'll come back out tomorrow and finish it. Well, the bench work for the reversing loop is now completed. I got that bridge across the middle done this morning. It didn't take very long, and that was all that was missing. I've also cut the joints where it crosses between benchwork sections. There were 4 of them, one there, one over there, one here, and one there. Next thing to do is to plot where the track goes. Then I can install the foam road bed, get the fences in and the track. So I'm going to get on with that. Don't go away, I will be right back. Well, that is the foam road bed installed. I needed exactly 11 lengths with virtually no offcuts. I think the next thing to do is to go inside, get my track laying tools. So don't go away, I will be right back. Well, I'm making good progress on the track laying. I started with the 2 turnouts. I drilled the holes in the sub road bed for the side hole because putting them in the middle, the switch machines would probably foul the joist underneath. So by side mounting them, they're more or less in the middle. You can see how far I've got by where the weights end. I've got the 2 parallel tracks all done, and I've just started going around the loop. I had to take a break, go inside, get some more track weights, but now I'm ready to continue. One thing worth mentioning is where the reversing section starts. I removed 2 ties from each track, and I've got a piece of 20 thou styrene with 2 copper ties mounted to it. And eventually I will solder those in place and then use a Dremel to cut the rails. I just realized I haven't yet cut the gaps down the middle of the ties. So at the moment it's going to be a dead short. But I will remember to come back and do that before I have to test it. Anyway, I'm going to get back to work. It won't take long to finish that. And I will be right back. I'll see you later. Well, I have very nearly finished laying the track around the reversing loop. I just have this one section to go. And although I've said this before, I wanted to mention it again because I think it's worthwhile. I am combining microengineering and Pico FlexTrack. The reason for that is that microengineering FlexTrack holds the rails very tightly in the tie strips. So once you've bent it to shape, it holds that shape very well. Thus there is no tendency for the joints to spring out on curves. Most other brands of FlexTrack, the rail is held a lot more loosely in the ties and is free to slide, thus making it very easy to bend to shape, but it won't hold that shape. So we don't want to have joints on curves because it will try to spring out and result in a kink. So here is a special piece of FlexTrack. I have soldered half a length of microengineering track to half a length of Pico track. Now the reason for using Pico over other brands is that the rail section is identical to microengineering and therefore fits well with the microengineering rail joiners. So the ME track is used around the circular curve. It's easy to bend to shape using a template. I use the same templates as I use for marking out the curves in the first place. And I found that bending it around the template about 2 inches smaller than the curve you want works fairly well because it does spring out slightly. On the other hand, microengineering track is difficult to bend into a good easement, whereas other brands make easements very well indeed. So I'm playing to the strengths of both brands of track. I thought that was worth sharing again. Anyway, I'm now getting ready to install this last piece of track, and then I will be done with the reversing loop. Well, I've just recycled all the weights from the reversing loop, and I have continued with the track laying in both directions, the two long parallel legs of the Y, as far as here. And once again, I am out of weights. I had a casualty earlier. I dropped one of the cans and it burst. So I tossed that outside so it didn't spray Mountain Dew all over the benchwork. I suppose I should go pick it up, see if there's anything left in it. Anyway, that's as much track as I'm going to lay for the day. I've got a little bit of time left. I haven't decided whether to do anything else or just to go in and start work on my inside jobs for this evening. Well, that's all for this week. Hope you enjoyed the video and found it interesting or useful or both, and I hope to see you back next week. I haven't actually looked ahead to see what next week's video is all about, so it'll be a surprise for both of us, and I hope to see you back here for that. So in the meantime, thanks for watching and bye for now.